Hi. Hi. This is kind of strange, I gotta say. I'm the event coordinator. I'm always behind the camera, not in front of it. So thank you all so much for coming tonight. It's so nice to be among so many friends and new friends, I hope. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your night to come and hear me talk to you about breath. And I also want to just say a big thank you to Jordan Pease, our executive director, for creating this wonderful library, this resource for this community, and giving me a great job and supporting me in my little breathwork adventure. So, and also our team, Billy Wisdom and Rhonda Elliott, Ray Makota, our video, and our new video and training, Kira. So we have a great team here. We have a lot of fun, and we just appreciate all of your support, because without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you. So yeah, like Billy said, I was inspired last summer. I happened to be on Instagram, and I only go on there to see what my son is up to usually, but I also get posts from Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I'm a big student of, and something came by about being a breathwork coach, and you can take a 10-week course, and you can be a certified breathwork coach. And I was first introduced to breathwork about 20 years ago, and was amazed at the power of it, and got to do a few private sessions. And then my friend who introduced me, she had a super powerful session, and so I, every opportunity I could, which wasn't that often, I would do a breathwork journey. I even did one at a music festival when we were all under a little tent, and it was powerful. It was great. So those were always very high moments in my life. And also at the same time, I was an acupuncturist, and acupuncture is wonderful. It's an amazing modality. And I found that it was great for me, and I won't speak for all acupuncturists, but for me, it was really great for physical types of things. But sometimes people just didn't get well, you know, no matter what I did. And I always had a sense there was some underlying mental, emotional things going on. And so, long story short, when I started seeing these posts to become a breathwork coach in 10 weeks, I was like, well, this is really interesting. This is something I could do. It's something that, even though I'm not doing acupuncture anymore, I still really believe in the power of moving energy in the body, and I've seen through acupuncture, saw some amazing miracles. And then when I started to go into Dr. Joe retreats with Alyssa, we saw really powerful, he uses a lot of breath in his meditations and his work. And we saw some miracles, basically. So I was inspired, and I signed up. So the first, I didn't start for about 6 months later until January. So that's what I did this winter. Kept me out of trouble, more or less. So my intention for you tonight is that this presentation is a catalyst for you to explore your breath and work with it to create more health, happiness, and wholeness in your life. I really hope you find something tonight that you can take home with you. I'm going to teach you a lot of little self-care things and techniques and things you can do to improve your breath health, which improves everything in the body. That's why I love breath work, is because to me, it's the perfect triad. The body, the mind, and the spirit. It can uplift all those things, and it can focus on one area, or it can be a general. It's just amazing. I'm still discovering the power of breath work. I do the journeys quite often. I'm doing self-care practices. I'll be talking about those. And it's fascinating. Like, how often do we think about the breath? But tonight we're going to learn about, what it is and why it matters. I'm going to give you a little review of the history and the evolution of how we got to where we are today with breath work, understand some of the basic science and its effects on the body. We're going to do a little test. You can determine your breath score and see where you stand on that level and ways to improve it. We're going to learn coffee, water, and whiskey breathing, self-care exercises. And at the end, I'm going to introduce you to 90 breath work, which is what I'm offering in my journeys. So here we go. Let's go for a ride. So why does breath matter? We take 25,000 breaths per day, and we think about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and only 90 to 95% of that is unconscious. So it is only 5%, the very tip of the iceberg, of our thoughts that we think and the breaths. I mean, how often do you think about your breath? How often do you think about eating? How often do you think about drinking? How often do you think about sleeping? You know, so here we are, the most basic thing. How long can we live without breathing? You know, people can live without food for quite a while. I've met a breatharian who lived without food for months and years. You know, we can't live without water for that long. And breath is the most basic function, vital function of the body, and how much attention do we give it? So that's what I'm here today, is to help raise your awareness and give you some things that you can use on a daily basis. So, and the other thing about breath, it's the only aspect of our autonomic nervous system that we can control. The rest of it, we can't control it. Our heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, that just happens. That's all part of the parasympathetic nervous system, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So we have power here in our breath. It's transformational power. So what is breath work? Breath work is the conscious manipulation of our breath using breath awareness and conscious breathing for a desired result. So that's a broad spectrum. So let's just do something for a minute, if you bear with me. Just close your eyes for a moment. If you want, you can put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. And just become aware of your breathing. Just don't try and change it. Just feel, do you feel your chest rising? Do you feel your belly rising? Are you breathing through your mouth? Are you breathing through your nose? Do you feel the air going through your nose? Just become aware of your breath. Okay, and now I want you to breathe in and out through your nose. We're going to breathe in for a count of 5 and exhale for a count of 5. So inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's breath awareness. You're becoming aware of your breathing. And that was conscious manipulation of our breath for a desired result. And what that is called coherent breathing. And coherent breathing is a basic count of 5. It's really 5.5 inhale and 5.5 exhale, and it's a conscious connected breath. So there's no real pause at the top or at the bottom. And this creates heart coherence. And if you keep that up and add an elevated emotion with it, it'll create heart and brain coherence. And this is a really good state to be in. This is where we can create. We don't want to create from a place where we're, you know, nervous and scared and our heart's beating 100 miles an hour. We can't create from there. We create from this state of coherence. And so we'll talk more about this. But this is breath work. It can be as simple as that, or it can be as you know, not complicated really, but it can be, back in the day in holotropic breathing, they would breathe heavily for 2 to 3 hours. And we'll talk a little bit more about that too. So, breathwork has been known to help with a lot of stuff. It sounds too good to be true. It really does, but it's true. And I've experienced a lot of this personally. I know a lot of people who have experienced these other things. You can heal your asthma with breath. We'll talk about that. Trauma, PTSD is a big one. And those are the longer breath journeys, guided, coached. Depression and anxiety. It can help with long COVID. Dental issues even. I didn't even know this until I started studying. And we're going to talk a lot about this, but mouth breathing creates dental problems. And I asked my dentist about it because I thought, is this just some crazy thing that they're telling us about breath? And he said, oh no, you know, absolutely. So heart disease, you can help break addictions and unhealthy habits. I mean, there's just so much. It does kind of sound like snake oil, but it's really not. It's this power that you have within you. So conscious breathing practices are thousands of years old. I'm sure most of you are familiar with yoga and the yogi and pranayama breathing. So it was first documented about 3000 BC. And in Sanskrit, breath means spirit. So to breathe is to connect with your spirit. In China, the emperor promoted it for mental and physical health, and in Tibet, it was to cultivate spirituality. So many, many cultures have been using breath work in various ways for various desired outcomes. In fact, working at a metaphysical library, I get access to a lot of books that come through here. This one, The Science of Breath. This was written in 1904. That was a copyright. So it was written before that, and I did read a good part of it. And the science, it's amazing how accurate it is. And then this one is another one that came through. This is a revised edition from 1958, but this one was written, the original edition was 1902. So breathwork is not anything new. It's been around. It is getting a little bit of a resurgence lately. I think it's more and more, people are more and more and interested in using it. So, you know, it's something that people have been doing forever. I can say that, I think, for the fact. So the evolution, fast forward several thousands of years, probably Stanislav Grof was the first person to really popularize doing breath work. He was born in Czechoslovakia, and he was an early researcher into LSD and hallucinogenic type drugs. And he was the founder of transpersonal psychology. So in the 60s, he moved here, I think in the 60s, and he was doing research in these non-ordinary states of consciousness. And so he wanted to come up with a way to not have to use the drugs and the substances to get to these these altered states of consciousness. So in 1974, he developed holotropic breath work, which is basically controlled hyperventilation. It's it's breathing through the mouth, and it's and you might do that for 2 or 3 hours. I talked to somebody that I met who had studied with him, and it was intense and had amazing properties, amazing results for people. We're able to release a lot of trauma, a lot of stuck emotion, change some habits, break addictions, depression, anxiety, all that stuff. So we have Stanislav to thank for pioneering this work and bringing it into the Western mainstream culture, which it really wasn't until then. He's no longer with us, but his wife, Bridget Graff, is still around and still, I think they have an pretty active organization. So breathwork today. This book was the first book I read on breath by Dan Brule, and it covers the whole scope of breath work, from the basic self-care things to the different types, Wim Hof breathing, transformational breath breathing, trauma release, somatic breath release, spiritual breathing, and we can use it. You know, there's functional breath work with the self-care exercises. We can use it for energy and focus. That's the coffee breathing we're going to talk about and recommended in the morning or for when you need a lift to get yourself activated. There's the balancing, which is water breathing. And this is something to use any time of day and to feel balanced and centered. These are, well, I'll talk a lot about those. These are my go-to breaths. In fact, I was doing balancing breathing in the other room before I came out here. So, and rest and digest, or whiskey breathing. Hopefully you're only drinking whiskey at night and to relax. And so this is recommended in the evening or right before sleep or feeling stressed or anxious. So I'm going to teach you a few of these different breaths that you can use whenever you want. And then there's also functional breath coaching. And we'll talk about those too. There's certain methods that it's recommended to be coached at first, to have a certified coach. This Pateco breathing, which is low, slow, and deep, or LSD breathing, we call it. And that actually, the founder of it, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but he cured himself of a really severe asthma using this type of breath. And then we have the guided breath journeys. And that's what I'm offering. That's what 9D breathwork is. And so these are longer form sessions, and we use different various deep breathing techniques, and it's kind of that controlled hyperventilation. And what that does, the gas exchanges, it kind of shocks the body into letting go of trauma. It'll bring up old emotions, old memories, things that you may not even know that were there, and bring them up, and then you can release them with the somatic release, because that's what breathwork is. It's the body. The body takes over, and it will release it. You just have to hang with it. You don't have to know what it is. You don't have to know why. You just got to feel the feelings and then let it go. So it's super powerful. And I really like this type of breath work as opposed to maybe plant medicines, is because you can turn it off when you want to. You just start breathing through your nose, and if it's getting to be too much, if you take plant medicines, if any of you have done that before, I can't imagine anyone in this room has, but no, you can't turn it off. You know, it's done when it's done, and you may be done long before. So this is something that it's not something someone does to you, so you have the control. It's not like acupuncture, where I was doing something to somebody. You're doing it for yourself, and that's the one reason I really love it. So, the biggest obstacle to your health and fitness and the biggest contributor to your stress and anxiety is rarely identified. This is Brian Kelly. He is my coach, mentor. Does anybody have an idea what that might be?
Breathing?
Well, yeah. It's chronic overbreathing. Has anybody ever felt like this? Over 90% of people on the planet are chronic overbreathers. I was one. I didn't know that until I started studying this. So symptoms of chronic overbreathing are mouth breathing, breathe through your mouth, snore, or hold your breath during sleep. If you wake up really thirsty all the time, you're probably breathing through your mouth. If you have to get up and go to the restroom a lot, you're probably breathing through your mouth. If you breathe fast and shallow during the day, if you hold your breath, I found myself, even when I was doing this presentation, I'd be all focused, and I was like, oh, I'm holding my breath. Breathe, Nikki. So I catch myself all the time. If you suffer from a headache, nasal congestion, fatigue, lightheadedness, or dizziness, or frequently feel stressed or overwhelmed, good chance you're breathing through your mouth. And that breathing through your mouth puts you in what we call a high beta state, which is fight or flight. You're in that sympathetic state, and it's hard to think. It's hard to be clear. It's hard to create from that state. So it's better if you want to be in low beta or in the alpha states when you're wanting to create. So mouth breathing is a thing, and I'm working on it myself. Chronic overbreathing leads to, it could be poor health and fitness, anxiety. I mean, look at him. He doesn't look that healthy, does he? He's mouth breathing. It's very hard to breathe through your nose when your mouth is open or when you're talking. Just try it. In fact, people that talk all day, like maybe phone operators and stuff, that's one reason they totally burn out, is because they're mouth breathing all day, because they're talking all day. So,
that is so cool.
so chronic stress, anxiety, insomnia, heart problems, even obesity and dental. Again, I mentioned dental issues, but even obesity can be linked to mouth breathing. There was a study on chronic overbreathing on heart attack, 153 heart attack patients, and 100% of them were predominantly upper chest breathers, which means shallow breathing, and 75% were chronic mouth breathers, and 70% breathe through their mouth during sleep. So if you want to have good heart health, you should be paying attention to your breath, for sure. And a book on that, the Oxygen Advantage book, is an excellent book about with exercises and things that you can do, self-care things you can do to improve your breath.
Can you define overbreathing?
Overbreathing is, if you see someone panting, it's fast, panting, shallow, usually through your mouth. If you see an animal, right, panting, that's usually a sign they're sick. So if you see someone panting, you're probably going to worry, like, I don't know if I want to be in the same room with them or in the grocery store in case they're a serial killer or something. Not that bad, but yeah, it's a shallow, quick breaths, generally through your mouth. And it's not all the time, but it can be a good part of the day. So the solution for chronic overbreathing is nasal breathing. And this is, and I'm speaking for myself, and I am still working with it, because I did discover I was a mouth breather, and I actually was diagnosed with sleep apnea about 4 or 5 years ago, and I have a CPAP machine. And I believe now that probably came from mouth breathing. And who knows how long I've been doing it. 20 years, 3 years, 40 years, I don't know. Long enough. It's kind of a hard habit to break. You have to really be conscious. But we want to breathe through our nose. It does all these wonderful things. It warms and cools the air. Depending on if it's really cold, you want to warm it up. If it's really hot, you want to cool it down. Filters the air, smoke, dust, airborne diseases. We're all familiar with that. And it produces nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator and bronchodilator, which stimulates hormone release and regulates neurotransmission. So nitric oxide is good stuff to have. You want as much as it as you can. It's not nitrous oxide like you get at the dentist, but it does give you a feeling of safety and security. So by breathing through your nose, you produce, I think it's like 15% more nitric oxide than you do if you're breathing through your mouth. And it keeps, we have 70,000 miles of blood vessels in our body, So it helps expand those, dilate those blood vessels, which helps prevent heart disease. So the mouth is for eating, the nose is for breathing. And this book, this was the second book I read on breath. This is an amazing book. They did a study, these two men, it was in, I think it was at Stanford, and
One from Sweden.
yeah, one from Sweden and one from here. And they did a study of 2 weeks of only mouth breathing and 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks of only nasal breathing. And they were, testing themselves, and they go into the lab and get tested 3, 4, or 5 times a day. And it was amazing how quick their general health, and they were generally pretty healthy guys that did this, how quick their health just went totally downhill. So I really suggest reading this book. It will change the way you breathe. It changed the way I breathe.
Now, Nikki, do you tape your mouth?
That's coming next. Yep. How to improve your breathing. So the big thing I do is I mouth tape at night. And we got a little show and tell here. You can buy little things on Amazon, special ones. They're kind of a little bit pricey.
Actually, over at the Dollar Tree,
they have them?
A very reasonable $1.25 tape that is,
oh, really?
works perfectly.
Yeah, I just get this surgical tape, and you just take a little piece, and you just put it over like this. And then this stuff is good. So at night, because I still do get a little bit thirsty, so if I do wake up and I need a little sip, I can just take off the tape and then stick it back on. It really is. It's still changing my life. I've been doing this every night for almost 9 months now. And at first it's a little weird, but I love it now. Because I wake up, I feel so much better. I feel so much more refreshed. And yeah, it's good stuff, and it's so simple. You do it while you're sleeping. How hard is that?
Does cellular memory kick in and you don't have to?
Eventually it does. For a lot of people, they say even a couple of months of doing it. They say 1 month for sure. And then my coach, he said he was doing it 2 or 3 months. He's quite a bit younger than me though. So, I mean, I'm thinking, if I've been mouth breathing for 20 years or 30 years or whatever, if it takes me a year or two to break that, fine. I'm fine with it. It's not a big deal. So yeah, that's a huge one. So in the daytime, like you said, just become aware of your breath. If you notice you're kind of starting to feel a little stress or something, just notice, oh, am I breathing through my mouth or my nose? And often you'll find you're breathing through your mouth, and that's going to raise your stress levels. Abdominal breathing, which is just taking breaths all the way down so you feel your belly rise, and practicing breath holds, just holding your breath. And I have a little bit more on this. This is the fun one to do, hum on the exhale. So you just do humming, and what that does is increases nitric oxide production by 15 times. That's where that is. And I do it in the car, driving to work or wherever. It's great, easy. And also engaging in intense activities while maintaining nose breathing. So that's an interesting one to do. It's harder, but I go to the gym a couple mornings a week and do TRX, which is pretty intense. And I still catch myself mouth breathing, but I've been really working on the nose breathing, and it does really make it easier. There's a guy, John Duyard, he's an Ayurvedic practitioner, he's in Boulder. And I read this book years ago, but it's called Body, Mind, and Sport. And he talks about nasal breathing for sport, for athletics. And he had trained a lot of Olympic athletes to nasal breathe. It's not an easy transition, but once you get it, it makes a huge difference. And his athletes noticed a huge increase in their performance. So that's an older book, 1994, I think. Okay, now we're getting to the Buteyko method. Konstantin Buteyko. He developed this in 1950s in Ukraine, and he developed it. He had a very serious asthma, and he developed this slow and deep LSD breathing to cure his asthma. And what this does, it decreases your CO2 sensitivity, because when you hold your breath and you get that breath hunger, like you want to breathe, that is not caused from lack of oxygen. It's caused from too much carbon dioxide, and you're sensitive to the carbon dioxide in your system. And the carbon dioxide, we're going to talk about that some more here. It is key. Most people think of it as a waste gas. It is not a waste gas. It has real function in the body. So this Low, Slow, and Deep, these books, Patrick McCallan, Buteyko is not with us anymore, but he's taken it on, and he's written these 2 books. This is the newest one, and has all kinds of exercises and things you can do if you have asthma, long COVID, the sleep apnea, insomnia, all kinds of really good things. And it's a practice. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of work, but it works. And for anybody who has asthma, I don't know if there's any Buteyko coaches around here, but if you can find one, you'll probably heal your asthma. A little harder to do on your own, especially at first, but I think after you've gotten coached for a while, you can probably take off with it on your own. Okay, so breath science and conscious controlled breathing. We're not going to get very nerdy here, because that's not why we're here, but I just find it fascinating. There are things about the breath that I was like, why didn't I know that before? Okay, Ray, can we do the slide?
Yeah.
Oh, we got it. Okay, this is just a short little review on the breath.
Okay.
The respiratory system extracts oxygen from the air, a gas our cells need to live and grow. The respiratory system also eliminates carbon dioxide that cells produce after using oxygen. This process is known as respiration. Respiration is an automatic, involuntary process. Air comes in through your nose and encounters little hairs that moisten it, heat it, and clean it to keep dirt out of your lungs. The air continues down the pharynx, the larynx, and then the trachea. The trachea, or windpipe, splits into 2 to make the bronchus inside the lungs. Once the air is inside the lungs, it goes through pathways called bronchioles. Your lungs are the most important organs in respiration. They take the oxygen from the air and expel the carbon dioxide that your body doesn't need. The alveolar sacs take that oxygen and send it to the blood to distribute through all the organs and cells of our body. The diaphragm, located under your lungs, helps fill the lungs with air. Inhale. It also expels the air your body doesn't need. Exhale. The air we exhale contains carbon dioxide and waste, and it is hot. You can feel the heat if you put your hand over your mouth when you breathe out. Smoking and pollution can harm your respiratory system. Exercise and breathing clean air are really important to take good care of it.
So I know that was really simple, but sometimes simple is good, and just a little reminder. And one thing I really liked about that little video was the diaphragm. I mean, has anybody ever wondered, like when they say, like in yoga or whatever, take a big, deep belly breath? And I started wondering, well, we don't breathe into our belly. You know, they'll breathe into your belly. We don't breathe into our belly, we breathe into our lungs. But I just didn't get it until I started learning about this stuff. And what makes your belly rise, when they say belly breath, that's your diaphragm. It actually, and this is so counterintuitive to me. The diaphragm is kind of like an upside down umbrella, and you take an inhale, it expands, it's contracting actually, pushes down on those internal organs, and that's what makes your belly rise. And then when you exhale, that's actually caused by the diaphragm relaxing and coming back up and pushing the air out of the lungs. I don't know. I thought that was amazing. That was a real revelation to me because I couldn't figure that one out. So, and something they didn't get into was a little too advanced for that, but at the end of the bronchioles are those little, look like little teeny grape sacs. Those are the alveoli, and that's where the blood picks up the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, and it's the carbon dioxide that pushes the oxygen into the cells. So we need that carbon dioxide. So it's really not a waste gas. So the more, if you're sensitive to carbon dioxide and you get that breath hunger, you don't get as much oxygen into your cells, is where you need it. Not in your blood. The blood oxygen stays between about 95 and 99%. It really doesn't vary that much. It's the carbon dioxide and that's what breath work is manipulating the carbon dioxide in the blood. That's called the Bohr effect. So the less O2 in the blood, the more into the cells. So you want less carbon dioxide in your blood. That means you got more oxygen in your cells. And also, carbon dioxide is a vasodilator. Like I said, we have 70,000 miles of blood vessels in the body. So for better blood circulation, lower heart rate, and reduces the potential for cardiovascular disease. So carbon dioxide is our friend. It's not just something we want to throw out with the trash. So we're going to do a little CO2 tolerance test. It's also called the Bolt score. So what we're going to do, you're going to take 3 just normal breaths, and after the last one, after the last exhale, you're going to hold your breath, and I'm going to time, and I'll call out the time, 10 seconds, 12 seconds, 15. And when you get that first strong, like breath hunger, we call it, like wanting to take a breath. You don't want to take it until you have to do that. Don't hold till you're blue in the face. But when you first start to feel that breath hunger, take a note of that time. So let me get this reset. Okay. So go ahead and just take 3 normal breaths in and out through your nose. And then on the last one, when I say go, hold your breath at the end of the exhale and go. Five seconds, 10 seconds, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so everybody get a number there? It's a little tricky sometimes to know really where to take it. But if your diaphragm spasms or twitches, or you have to take a deep breath off afterwards, you've gone too far. So if your Bolt score was under 20, it definitely needs attention. That means your CO2 levels are low. I was about 15. 20 to 30 is good, like 25 is kind of a target if you can get it to 25. And then if you're 30 to 40, that's probably where you're getting into professional athletes or people who are really well fit and trained. So, and it's the boat score is good. You know, you probably have to do it a few times. Do it at home on your own, and just have your own timer, and so you know when you exhaled on your last breath, and then just watch it. And it's good to test it first thing in the morning, like when you first wake up, and you just breathe normally. You don't try and change it or anything, or on your 3 normal breaths, and then you just hold it until you feel, oh, I want to take a breath, and that's your score.
But
So
it's different because you're starting it after an exhale.
After the exhale, right?
Holding.
Yeah.
Usually, when you're going to hold your breath, you inhale first.
Right. Thank you.
Did you also say that if we have to take a big breath afterwards, we've gone too far?
Gone too far. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to just be able to go, oh, and then just be able to breathe normally after you've done it. So that's a really great test. So how you can improve your boat score, and I took this picture because, see her, she's got her mouth closed. And see these guys, their mouths are open and she's ahead of them, so. So the mouth taping at night, and then breathe through your nose during the day. My boat scores are about up to 20. You know, it's slow. You don't want to take it every day. I maybe take mine every few weeks. And I go, oh, great, it's raised up a little bit. I'm happy. As long as it's going in the right direction, it's great. Doing breath holds during exercise, short breath holds while sitting or walking. And we're going to talk about box breathing here in a little bit. And breathe lightly before bed to create air hunger in your body. And this, in that book, The Oxygen Advantage, and the other one, Breath Cures, he talks a lot about the different exercises you can do to raise your bolt score. So the idea is to get it up around 25 if you can. Okay, so we're going to talk about the nervous system and self-regulation. Just quick little science class. Autonomic nervous system is the the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight, and then the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest. So sympathetic can also be, what's the other, focus and, you know, it's not bad. Sympathetic is not all bad. We need to be in our sympathetic nervous system when we're taking a class or studying, or we want to be alert and awake and aware. And the parasympathetic is when we're ready to just chill, and we just let it do its thing and take over the heart rate and the blood pressure and the digestion and all the stuff that it does. So we're going to do another little test called the alternate nostril test. And this is I really like doing this. I was doing it last night. It tells you if your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system cycle every hour, hour and a half, where you're more in one end of that spectrum than the other. And the way you can do this is you place your index finger underneath your nose, and you just blow out, and you feel which side is the strongest, your right or your left. So if your right nostril is dominant, that means you're in your sympathetic nervous system, and that's left brain activity, beta brain wave, that's wakefulness, alert, hungry, you know, time to go, time to get going. So if you're in your sympathetic nervous system, and it's so easy to tell, it's like, well, maybe I should wait a little while before I decide to go to bed, you know, stay up and read for a while or whatever it is that you do. If your left nostril is dominant, that means you're in your parasympathetic cycle, and that's the right brain activity, the alpha brain wave. You're feeling relaxed, sleepy, tired, also feelings of love and empathy and emotional connection. So I was doing this last night, and I was feeling a little bit tired, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in my parasympathetic. Okay, I'm going to go to sleep. And I go to sleep much faster. But it's kind of fun to just do that during the day and see where you're at. And sometimes it's balanced, you know, it's pretty even. So we're talking about breath awareness. This is Dan Brule, who wrote that book, Just Breathe, that has I just actually reread it again. I just finished it again. And I'm really glad I did, because it reminded me of a lot of things I'd kind of forgotten. By taking conscious control of your breathing, you harness your thoughts, your energy, and your body. And again, being a Dr. Joe Dispenza's student, we always hear, you know, change your thoughts, change your life. That's kind of how I came up with change your breath, change your life. Because our thoughts control our emotions, and then our emotions create all these hormonal reactions. And so if you're thinking all these crappy thoughts, and you may not even want to be thinking them, you're just going to create more crap. So by using your breath, you can take control of this. It's kind of amazing. Okay, so now we're going to talk about coffee, water, and whiskey breathing techniques. So upregulation, activation, that's the coffee breathing. Like when you go into an important meeting, you're studying for a test, you need to be active, awake, and alert. And we call it superventilation, but it's controlled hyperventilation, basically, for energy, focus, and alertness. And this is in and out through your mouth. There are times when you do want to breathe in and out through your mouth, but you want to be doing it consciously, not unconsciously. So it's mouth breathing, and you want to have a longer inhale. Longer inhale, rapid, 30+ breaths per minute. This will raise the blood pH slightly, make it a little bit more alkaline. There's a slight decrease in your blood oxygen because you're off-gassing the carbon dioxide with every exhale. It will constrict blood vessels and air passages, which can be a good thing. If you're trying to get ready to meditate and you want that monkey mind to turn off, the self-critic, the analytical mind, doing this type of breath, what it does, because it is a blood constrictor, it will cut off some of the circulation to the frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex of the brain, and creates this state called transient hypofrontality, and that quiets the mind, the self-critic, the analytical mind. That's what we do in our transformational breath work, is we're quieting that mind. When we quiet that mind, we can do it enough so we drop into a theta state. And that's where we can get into the subconscious and reprogram some limiting beliefs, bad habits, negative thoughts. We can reprogram that just with your breath. This is pretty cool. So let's see. Oh yeah, so here's coffee breathing techniques. First one, 10, 20, 30. It's just 10 deep breaths in and out through your mouth. And then you hold for 10 seconds. And then you do 20 of those. And you hold for 20 seconds. And then you do 30 of those. And you hold for 30 seconds. You can do 50-50, same thing, 50 breaths. And you hold for 50 seconds. So sometimes those breath holds sound like they're long, but they're really, when you've been breathing like that, you've got a lot of oxygen exchange and going on. So you can usually hold it. 25 deep belly breaths, way down into your belly. And then breath of fire from yoga, that probably a lot of you know, is an activating breath. If you sign up for my website, for my email list, and I got a sign-up sheet over there, I'll send you a coffee breathing little sample journey. It's a 5-minute one. I do it a lot in the morning when I get up and before I meditate a lot, just to kind of get myself going and clear my brain. And there's also a relaxation one in there too. So, okay, balanced water breathing. So it's called water breathing because we can do this any time of day. This is my favorite. It balances the nervous system. It creates a calm, relaxed, and present state of mind. It's nasal breathing. It's in and out through your nose, or at least in through your nose, out through your nose. If you want to go out through your mouth, that's fine. You'll lose a little bit of nitric oxide, but not much. But definitely in through your nose. Slower, about 50% of your natural rate, but deeper, more volume. You like to feel your belly rise. Aim is 4 to 6 breaths per minute. This is this coherent breathing, 5.5 seconds. It tones the nervous system and gets optimum flow of oxygen, carbon dioxide, increases nitric oxide to your system, which has all kinds of benefits. So it's the ideal default breath. Like, this is my goal, to be my regular breath throughout the day, and same with my coach. And this is kind of what we're striving for. It's not easy. It's going to, it takes a while. I can do it for a while, and then I.
Would you explain, Nikki, 50% of natural rate, but 2
Oh,
times
that's
volume?
slower. So most people breathe about 12 times a minute.
Okay.
So you'd want to be breathing about 6
I see.
times a minute.
Which
50,
is then
yeah.
4 to 6 breaths per minute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, but deep breaths. And, oh boy. So the coherence breathing is that 5.5 to 5.5. You can get a timer. I love, it's not on here. I love this one. It's called From Take a Deep Breath. It's on YouTube. There's a bunch of timers for these different breaths on YouTube. But the one from Take a Deep Breath, you have to, he does a little intro for about 2 minutes, but I just started about 2 minutes, and it goes for about 20 minutes. And it's a tone, so I do it when I'm ready to go to sleep at night, and it's a tone, so you can hear it, and the tone goes up, and breathe in, and then there's a little bell, and then you exhale, and the tone goes down. It's just really easy to follow, and I do that almost every night for at least a few minutes, and I do it for like 5 minutes in the morning when I first wake up, just to balance things out. So that's our default breath. And there's this organization called the HeartMath Institute. Probably heard of that. It's a nonprofit organization doing really wonderful work. They've taken this coherent breathing to the next level, and are really getting it out there into the world to create more peace and harmony and love and justice and all those things that seem to be lacking right now. And it's a worldwide organization. They've done a lot of science around this. Dr. Joe Dispenza is huge on this. There's that YouTube timer, Heart Coherence Breathing, Take a Deep Breath channel. So it lowers stress, revitalizes your energy and resilience, restores your emotional and physical balance, creates heart-brain coherence. And again, that's our creative state when we're in heart-brain coherence. So yeah, this is a default one for me whenever I think about it. Unless I'm doing box breathing, and this is actually my favorite. This creates a calm, focus, and alert state. It's used by Navy SEALs and other military. They train their soldiers to do this breath. And there's one story in that Dan Brule book, because he was in the military of the lead, whatever they call him, I don't know what they call him, but in the helicopter, they're going out on a mission, and he has his guys doing this box breathing. And so I was driving, I went up to Canada this summer. I did a little road trip by myself to go see my son playing a music festival. And so it's this long road, and I was starting to get a little bored, and I'm like, oh, I should do some breathing stuff. And so I started doing this box breathing. And 5 in, and you hold for 5, 5 out, hold for 5. So it's like, that's what they call it a box. It looks like a square. Yeah. Inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, and exhale for 5. And you can also do other counts. You can do 4, you can do 6, you can, adjust it to wherever you are at. And then I started adding, and this comes a little bit from my Dr. Joe training, is adding an elevated emotion to it. Mm-hmm. So I'd inhale like joy or love or compassion, and then I'd hold that for 5, and then I'd just like let it go. And then hold that for 5. And I did this probably for hours. And I drove 9 hours from here to get to Spokane, Washington. And when I got there, I felt great. I was happy. It was amazing. I love doing it now. That's what I do when I drive to work. I'm doing my box breathing because it just puts me, especially adding that elevated emotion with it, really adds another level. So, and that's what I was doing before tonight, before Jean came to help me, which was great. So box breathing. And again, this is a timer on YouTube. It's just one I found. There's tons of them. So if you find one that you like, and I like the ones that you don't have to look at, because a lot of times they'll have an arrow going up and over and down. But just ones that I can just listen to. That's what I'm looking for when I'm looking for timers. And there's also phone apps. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Okay, so now we're going to talk about down regulation or whiskey breathing. So this is something when you're ready to chill out, relax. And this activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's the low, slow, and deep, the LSD breathing. And it's for sleep and rest, rejuvenation, digestion. So this is nasal breathing. Again, definitely inhale through your nose. Some people prefer to exhale through their mouth. That's okay. It's slow. It's like less than 3 breaths per minute, which is pretty slow. Or that's what you want to get to. It'll slightly raise the blood pH. It raises the carbon dioxide and nitric oxide levels. It dilates the blood vessels because of the carbon dioxide. And it's really recommended, well, for everybody, but with people who have asthma and other breathing issues, this is the kind of breath they want to focus in. They probably don't want to do the coffee breathing. Not that good for people that have asthma and COPD and severe respiratory conditions. So this is great. I do the 4-8 a lot, and this is, and the general rule of thumb is that your exhale is twice as long as your inhale. So whatever count you want to do, these are some of the most common. 4, 6, 8 is very common. So in for 4, hold for 6, out for 6. 4, 7, 8 was developed by Dr. Andrew Weil for sleep. And that's in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. And that one for me, it kind of gets my mind going a little too much. A lot of people really like it for sleep. So you just play around with it, find what you like. I've just found the coherence breathing, the more balanced works better for me, but it's great. And then this is the 5-15 hum. This is the humming. So in for 5, hum, for 15, and then just do a cycle of that.
So, yeah, Nikki, when you don't have the third number,
Yeah.
I'm a little confused.
Oh,
about
well, there's not a
the-
third number. There's no hold. So you're just in for 4,
Okay.
out for 8.
Oh,
So that's where there's really not much of a
out for 10. Okay.
break at the inhale or the exhale.
So that
or
with the hum, it's in for 5 and then,
Hum. Yeah, hum. And I hum for as long as I can. Hold it, because the longer you can hold it, the more you're training your carbon dioxide sensitivity. So again, sign up for my email list. I'll send you a 5-minute relaxing breathwork break that you can listen to. So, and here's another little timer that I found. But again, there's all kinds. So breath holds. Breath holds are great for training, for improving your breath score. You can do there's a few types of breath holds. There's the one on the inhale, like most of us are used to. And then there's the one that we did with the coherent breathing, whereas you hold on the exhale. And so this improves your lung capacity, increases oxygen delivery, reduces anxiety. It can improve your bullet score. That's why I like that 5-5 breathing too, because it's short breath holds along with the inhale and exhale. Let's see. Oh, I guess this one has full inhale, so that improves. That's what that does. And then when you hold on the exhale, like we did for the coherent breathing, improves your respiratory muscles, increases CO2 tolerance, improved mental clarity. So those are fun to play around with. You know, people who are serious about it, they'll do underwater training. Do not do by yourself to try to do breath holds. Doing breath work is really safe. That is the one place where people get in trouble, is they go and do breath holds and they're alone, and that nitric oxide, you just get into this floaty space and you just kind of go away. So, but yeah, it's kind of fun.
You meant while you're swimming. You didn't
Well,
mean like doing breath work.
No, I say, like, if you're going out and you're going in the pool and you're just going underwater to see how long you can hold your breath, don't do that by yourself. It's a good training, and there are protocols for that. Very good training for your breath, but you need to have a partner to do that. Okay, so breath hold benefits. Improves cardiovascular fitness, lung capacity, reduces stress and anxiety, increases your CO2 tolerance, oxygenation to the cells, because it's that CO2 that's pushing that oxygen into your cells, and then helps to trigger emotional processing. So if you're doing a breath journey, we're going to have you do some breath holds. And we'll talk more about that later. So, but here's a big one. People should not do breath holds in pregnancy because it can cause early labor. It happened to my coach, to his wife, and he wasn't coaching her, it was somebody else. And she was 5 months pregnant. She went into early labor, and they ran to the hospital. Everything was okay, thank God. But yeah, that's one thing we have some contraindications, and we'll talk about those in a minute, but that's a big one. So don't recommend that to anybody who's pregnant. All right, so that's the functional breathing, and that's the self-care practices. So now we're going to get into what's my favorite right now, is the transformational breath work, and that's what I'm offering. Transformational breath work is just conscious, connected breathing practice that helps gain access to our subconscious mind, release trapped emotions and traumas, and helps to rewire the brain. So we already talked about some of the science of that. I know these are a little bit hard to read, and I'm not going to go through them all, but there's so many benefits. I've been experiencing them. I've been doing the longer journeys now for about a year, and every 2 weeks or a month or so, every couple weeks, and it really, the desire to learn and grow spiritually, a sense of newfound purpose or meaning in my life. I mean, here I am, doing this. Who knew? You know? Feeling connected to something larger, sense of inner peace, contentment, being more present, being more connected to others, liberation or release from traumas or complexes, negative emotions or behaviors, and increased clarity and insight into your own life and the world. So there's all kinds of amazing things that can arise with these transformational breath journeys. It's often called somatic breath work or trauma release breath work. It's all kind of the same thing, transformational breath work, but these are guided journeys. They've been known to help with all these things and more. This kind of depends on what you need at the time, and each journey is different. You know, no two are alike, kind of like no two meditations are alike. But this has just been super powerful for me, and I know a lot of people as well who's, you know, and you don't always, it's not always a big trauma release thing. I mean, people have that, but oftentimes it's kind of a quiet thing, and then you feel it unfolding, you know, the week after. So, and what are the risks of transformational breath work? Very low. In fact, it has been deemed a very low risk type of therapy. There was a study in 2013, they finished it. It was a 12-year study, and they did 11,000 psychiatric patients, and it was in a community hospital setting. And these people, a lot of them were suicidal, depressed, on heavy medications, and they studied these 11,000 people, and out of over 12 years, there were no adverse reactions. Nobody had a bad reaction. Only 2% didn't feel anything, which they think probably they weren't breathing deep enough. So like my coach, he's based in Bali, and he says, you're more likely to die getting hit on the head by a coconut than you are from doing breath work. So it's very safe, which is another thing I really like about it. But we do have, saying that, there are some contraindications, which just basically means use caution. If people have cardiovascular issues, arrhythmia, low or high blood pressure, recent heart attacks, or any heart condition, we want to use caution. And we can do modifications, which looks more like doing a nasal breathing rather than mouth breathing. And you can still have a really deep experience. I've done some journeys, just nasal breathing, because I wanted to see what it was like, and it was wonderful. So, but it's always good if you are going to do a breath session and you have any of these chronic respiratory disease, again, pregnancy, heavy-duty meds, opioids, and pen medications or psychiatric drugs, let your practitioner know. And if you have a doctor who even knows what you're talking about, ask them about, is it okay for me to do trauma release somatic breath work? And so if they're familiar with it, they can probably give you a good idea if it's safe. If not, I can do some research into that as well. And again, we can always do modifications for most people. I wouldn't want to work with anybody who is pregnant, no.
So what is the issue with osteoporosis?
Osteoporosis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I think it's because sometimes you can, move pretty, and you might break something, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so again, and along with the safety, and I kind of touched on this before, but in these transformational breath sessions, you're the driver of the bus. You have your foot on the gas pedal. If you feel like you want to go deeper and have a deeper experience, you breathe faster and deeper. If you feel like, oh, this is getting to be a little too much, I don't know if I'm ready for this, you close your mouth and start breathing through your nose. And then you come back in whenever you want. So I really like that feature, like I was saying. Unlike plant medicines and other substances, you don't get to turn it off when you want to turn it off. And this, you're totally in control. So the modifications, nasal breathing, shorter breath holds, because in the transformational journeys I do, we do breath holds. So I would suggest do a shorter one if we're doing a long breath hold. And then a lot of times on these breath holds, we'll squeeze our cores. And again, you don't want to just squeeze too hard.
That's interesting, because with work that I've been doing recently, this idea of squeezing the at the bottom, it's kind of chakra, first chakra, and is like sending up the breath through the vagus nerve, up the spine, and then out through the top and back down into the belly,
right,
kind of heart. And it's really emphasized. There is a Dr. Sue Morter who's a
right,
and she she calls it it's mula bandha, is that particular kind of breath. And then I heard it with Dr. Joe as well. That sort of kind of really intentionally squeezing the perineum.
The key is intentional.
Yeah, the key is intentional. Right.
And even when it's intentional, doesn't always mean you get there. I know, I've been trying for a couple of years now. But so if you do have any of those contraindications or anything, I would recommend always work with a certified breath coach. I mean, there's so many people out there doing breath work. A good yoga teacher with a lot of practice I would be comfortable with, but because I mean, there are things that can happen, and if something does happen, you want to be with somebody who's been trained to help you through it, and that's what they train us. So, okay, here we are. We're getting to the grand finale. Wow. 9D breathwork. It's a revolutionary new approach to trauma release, somatic healing, and spirit connection. So this is what I'm offering. These are the longer form transformational breathwork journeys. We have different themes for the journeys. We have from everything from letting go to abundance to ancestral healing, healing ancestral trauma, the 5 traumatic imprints that we all get as kids. What are some of the others? We get new ones every month. So, and these are guided journeys. They're different than probably any other breath work that you've done, though, because we are wearing headphones. So that's why I can only do up to 12 people at a time. I'm doing them now in this room, and I'm only doing 10 people at a time, because that's about all the space can take. So it's 9D multidimensional sound experience. It uses binaural brain entrainment, binaural beats, if you've heard of those. And those sound like kind of a hum, kind of a white noise in the back. And those binaural beats, different ones are for different themes like focus or sleep or energy. So according to the theme, that's the binaural beats. Solfeggio frequencies, which again kind of tune to the different energy chakras in the body. Isochronic brainwave tones, which are binaural beats go through both ears, and so they balances the 2 brain hemispheres. Isochronic brainwave tones only is 1 ear, 1 frequency, so that has a little bit different effect. We have 432 hertz harmonic tuning, which is the universal tuning. It's the tuning of the cosmos. It's the tuning of, I think it's the tuning of classical music. I'm not sure, but a 440 is kind of pop music. I think that's right. So it has harmonic tuning, somatic breath work, the breathing, has subliminal hypnotic suggestions. So you'll hear them in the back with some positive suggestions. And then the guided coaching. This is, we're wearing the headphones, and I open and introduce the journey. And then when we start the journey, it's my coach, Brian Kelly, who's a master at leading these journeys. He's done thousands and thousands and thousands, because he does them online and offline. And I did Zoom ones with him when I was doing my training. He'd have 400 people on there at a time. He really is amazing. And so he's guiding the journey. And then what I do is I go around and I offer light body work, because I used to be an acupuncturist. So I'm pretty good at finding spots that might help move some energy. So if I notice maybe somebody's not breathing deep enough, I might go touch on their chest or their belly, just to remind them to breathe deeper. If I notice, somebody's kind of looking like they're uncomfortable, their shoulder or something, I'll go in and do a little shoulder work. So I do that during the journey, and then at the end I close it. But in the meantime, you're wearing these headphones, and all this stuff is going on, all these different layers of sound and frequency and vibration. So it's a full immersion experience. I mean, we're in a group, but you're in your own experience. So it's pretty cool.
Are you in a chair, or do you have?
No, you lay down. Oh yeah, you always lay down when you're doing this type of breath work, because people have been known to faint. It's not common, but it can happen. So you're laying down.
Do you have massage tables in here?
No, we lay on the floor. I have really nice sheepskins. We'll see a picture of it in a minute.
And how long are they?
Well, it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours from start to finish. Like we do the intro, then we get into the journey. The active breathing is usually 45 minutes to an hour. And then there's an integration. He takes you through a positive anchoring process. And then afterwards, we do a little circle and share with anybody. So it can take up to 2 hours.
It feels less than that, though. To
Yeah,
me.
it does.
Pretty fast.
It does. It always does to me, too. I'm like, wow, I've been breathing for an hour like this. Yeah, once you get into it, it's that transient hypofrontality shuts off that analytical brain. You're not thinking about what time it is. You're just in your experience. And people do get into altered states. It happens. In fact, one gal at the end of our journeys, I've been doing some over the summer, and at the end of our session, she always says, remember, you've been in an altered state. I crashed my car after one of these journeys. So everything was okay, thank God. But yeah, it is an altered state. So here we are. This is one of my first journeys in here. And it's pretty comfy. We changed it into a little studio. So I'm doing these. Oh, that's the end. Just breathe. Right now I'm just doing them every other week. My website just launched, catalystbreathworks.com. And you go on there to register. Pre-registration is required because I do need to know how many people are coming. And let's see, my next one, I'm doing one this Thursday. This Thursday night, the 14th, 7:30 p.m. Probably as we get a little bit more into the fall, I'll probably start moving them to 7 p.m. But for now, it's 7:30 p.m. And I don't know, I think I have 7 spots left for this Thursday night. And again, if you want to sign my email list, or if you want to just go to my website and sign up for my email, you'll get not only those 2 little mini sessions, but you also get a discount code for 50% off your first session. So, because I just want everybody to try it. It's pretty cool.
Is that the same one on the card?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. On the back of that card, on the back of it, there's a discount code. So you can use that. And, send you all the details that you need to know. And I just love to have you all give it a try, because it's a pretty amazing experience. So thank you, everybody. I'm happy to take any questions, if you have any questions.
So you've got a couple, I mean, I know Cynthia and Suzanne.
Oh, yeah, Cynthia and Suzanne.
Anybody else?
And
just in terms of speaking?
Rhonda. I've done quite a few.
Testimonials.
Yeah, I've got some testimony. Karen, my web designer, my great web designer. Go check out my website just to see what she did. Yeah.
So when you're doing the Thursday night, is that one where you would choose what you're doing?
Yeah, I haven't. I'm going to start publishing that ahead of time. I think I'm going to do, it's called the Full Reset. It's kind of a good general one. I think that's the one I'll do this time. But in the future journeys, my website just went live on Friday. So I've been scrambling to get everything on there.
So everyone is doing the same?
Everyone does the same journey. We're all on the same channel on our headsets, on our headphones. Which again, it's kind of interesting because you're in your own journey, but you're doing it with other people. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic. And people of all ages, and men, women, it's great. And I love it. So.
Me too.
Cynthia, yeah, she's been one of my biggest supporters.
So you said that you're in an altered state. You mentioned something about someone wrecking a car.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was, again, she said, it was
just
after
a joke?
she left. Huh?
Oh, it's just a joke?
No, it wasn't a joke. She was going down the freeway, I-5, and there was an accident. Whoa. She was going back to Medford. There was an accident on the side of the road. The woman in front of her had stopped, and she was just like a little spacey. It's not like you're in a total altered state. Like while you're here, you might get an altered state. By the time you leave, you know, you hang out. We don't kick you out the door right away, so you can hang out. And you know, she said, yeah, it was totally my fault. I just wasn't paying attention, but it probably was because she was probably a little spacey. So I just like to remind people, you know,
to breathe.
And you'll be signing a waiver.
Remind them to breathe on their way home.
Yeah, do some box breathing that keeps you focused and alert. Yeah, so I didn't mean to scare you.
Well, I was just thinking, you know, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, and so I just wanted to clarify
Right, yeah,
what you meant.
it'd be about 9:30 probably when we got out of here. But again, you're welcome to stay as long as you feel like you need to stay. I'm not going to kick you out. So.
I'll get a testimony.
Okay, Rhonda.
Several months ago, when Nikki was in this process and becoming licensed, I had 2 at home that she did personally, and I guess cathartic is the word for it, but it was extremely calming, healing, and with her love and care, also you are in a place where you trust someone and you feel safe, which I think is very important in the process of healing and in the ways that she described it. It's just truly been wonderful, and I've also done them in group. And so if I can just give encouragement to people that are thinking of doing it also privately or in group, it really is an amazing, beautiful journey, and that's what it is. That's what a journey can be. So that's how I would describe it.
Thank you. Yeah, I can do privates. It could be in your home or your business, and it could be for one person up to 12 people. And right now that's just call me and we'll figure it out.
Can you do them online also with somebody who doesn't live here? I know that your coach does.
I can. I haven't. They have a training for us to do that. The sound quality isn't as good as if we were here live, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, and that's my intention. My focus basically all summer is just to get to this point to launch this business. Yeah. And then once we get things settled down a little bit, then I probably will start offering it on Zoom, because that's a lot more convenient. Like you said, I have, you know, my Aunt Mary in New York or whatever. So yeah, and it's effective. You know, that's how I did all my journeys up until I started doing these 9D ones live and in groups. Most of them, you know, we did it on Zoom. So it's still good. Me being an event coordinator, I kind of am partial to the live group experience. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.